Hello everyone. There's something fascinating about the ways intimacy changes when we stop thinking of it as just a physical act and start seeing it as an emotional language. A language that is spoken not only with words, but with presence, with the rhythm of breath, with the way we respond to each other's movements and boundaries. And among the many expressions of that language, there's one that carries a mix of surprise, excitement, and a kind of deep, almost primal connection the moment you enter from the back. Now, for some, this might just seem like a position, something physical, maybe even purely erotic, but for many women it's layered. It's not only about sensation, it's about trust, about surrender, about the way it changes the dynamic between giver and receiver. It's the shift in perspective, the loss of direct eye contact, the heightened awareness of touch, scent, and sound. It can make her feel both deeply vulnerable and wildly desired in the same breath. And when that balance is right, when she feels safe, when she feels cherished, that's when the sweetness comes in. Because in that moment, her mind and body are no longer split between control and pleasure. They're woven together in one continuous intoxicating experience. So let's talk about why that sweetness lingers. When we think about intimacy, we often imagine faces close together, eyes locked, bodies aligned in a way that feels familiar. And yet, the moments that often stay imprinted in our minds are not always the ones we can see clearly. They're the ones we can feel so deeply that vision becomes irrelevant. Entering from the back has a way of shifting the entire emotional landscape, and I want to help you understand why for many women it feels so irresistibly sweet. It starts with the idea of perspective, not just in the physical sense, but in the emotional one. In our day-to-day lives, so much of intimacy is built on negotiation, on the silent exchange of cues and agreements. When you move into this position, the visual cues change. She can't look into your eyes in the same way, and you can't search hers for permission or reassurance in real time. That absence of eye contact, strangely, can heighten everything else. Her hearing becomes sharper to the sound of your breath. Her skin becomes more sensitive to every subtle shift of your movement. And she becomes more attuned to the heat of your body against hers. For many women, this sensory rebalancing creates a different kind of intimacy. It's not about reading your face. It's about feeling your intent. If she trusts you, if she knows that you are attuned to her needs, this lack of direct gaze doesn't create distance. It creates depth. It says, I don't need to see you to feel you. And that's powerful. But there's another layer, one that has less to do with mechanics and more to do with psychology. In so many cultures, women are taught to present themselves, to be aware of how they are being looked at, judged, desired. From the front, there's always a part of her mind that is still on stage. But from the back, she can, if the trust is there, let go of that performance. She doesn't have to manage her facial expressions or monitor how she appears. She can just inhabit the sensation. This is where sweetness often begins, when she can step away from self-consciousness and step fully into pleasure. And then there's the question of vulnerability. This position is, in its essence, a gesture of surrender. You are behind her, she cannot see your every move, and yet she allows you there. For a woman to feel this as sweetness rather than tension, she needs to feel deeply safe in your presence. She needs to know that you are not simply taking but giving presence, giving care, giving reassurance in every subtle touch and every measured movement. The sweetness emerges when she feels held even without being held from the front, when your closeness is not just physical penetration, but emotional containment. If you pay attention, you'll notice something else. This position changes the rhythm of intimacy. It allows for more variety, for moments of stillness, for pauses where your bodies remain connected even when movement stops. Those pauses can be exquisite. Moments when the only thing she feels is the fullness of you inside her and the warmth of your body anchoring her from behind. The sweetness isn't just in motion. It's in those moments of quiet when the world feels reduced to nothing but the pulse of two bodies. And perhaps most intriguingly, entering from the back can awaken something playful, even mischievous in her. There's a primal quality to it, a whisper of animal instinct, yet it's wrapped in the safety of human connection. When that playfulness is invited and honored, it brings a spark. Her laughter becomes softer, her movements less scripted, her pleasure more spontaneous. Sweetness doesn't always come from seriousness. Sometimes it's born from the ability to be uninhibited without fear of being judged. But I'll tell you something important. This sweetness does not appear by default. Many men think that changing the position is enough, that the novelty alone will create the magic. It won't. What makes it meaningful is the emotional groundwork you've laid long before that moment. It's the way you've spoken to her earlier in the day, the way you've touched her without expectation, the way you've listened to her stories without turning them into solutions. It's everything that tells her, I'm safe here, and with you, I can let go. Once that groundwork is there, this way of connecting becomes more than physical. It becomes a sanctuary. She can close her eyes, lean forward, and feel you behind her, not as an intruder, but as an anchor. And that, my friend, is where the sweetness lives. The fascinating thing about human intimacy is that the smallest shift in perspective can transform the entire experience. A hand resting on her hip, your chest pressing lightly against her back, your breath close to her ear. It all sends a message. That message is amplified in this position because every touch is filtered through the lens of trust and desire. When those elements align, she doesn't just feel you in her body, she feels you in her mind. And so, entering from the back becomes a conversation without words, a dance without choreography, a way of saying, I'm here with you in this moment, completely. And when you mean it, she will feel it. Not only in her body, but in the way her heart softens, the way her breath changes, the way she leans into you rather than away. That's the sweetness she remembers. You see, when a woman is in that position, her awareness shifts in ways most men rarely think about. Without the direct exchange of eyes meeting eyes, she's tuning into an entirely different frequency. Your voice, if you choose to use it, becomes richer, almost like it's wrapping around her from behind. A simple murmur near her ear can feel like a ripple through her entire body, because in that moment, sound is no longer competing with sight. It's more intimate, more private, almost secretive. This is why the tone you use matters. A rushed, mechanical rhythm will never carry the same sweetness as one layered with care and intention. Speak slowly, touch deliberately. In this position, every movement you make becomes magnified. If you are calm, she feels grounded. If you are impatient, she feels rushed. Your energy transfers directly into her body, and she will absorb it like a sponge. There's also the way her body opens differently. Anatomically, the angle changes the sensations, but emotionally, it changes the story she's telling herself in that moment. From the back, she may feel less exposed visually but more exposed physically. The paradox is part of the sweetness, the thrill of surrender combined with the security of not being on display. You are close enough to hold her fully, but she doesn't have to hold herself together for you. That release of needing to look a certain way is incredibly liberating. And there's something else, something men often overlook: the beauty of her back. The curves, the way her muscles shift under your touch, the gentle slope of her neck leading to her hairline. When you are behind her, you have access to an entire landscape that is rarely explored with the same reverence as the front. Your hands can wander up her sides, your lips can find the place where her shoulder meets her neck. Your fingertips can trace down the spine in a way that makes her arch just slightly. These are details she notices, even if she doesn't say it aloud. When a man treats this vantage point not simply as a position, but as an opportunity to worship, yes, worship, the woman in front of him, she feels it. And it's not about theatrics, it's about subtlety. The sweetness is in the unspoken message. I see you even from here. I cherish you even when you're not looking at me. For women, especially as they move beyond their 20s, intimacy becomes less about proving something and more about feeling something. She's not just counting the beats, she's savoring the story. And the story in this position can be one of deep devotion if you let it. Imagine her noticing the way you linger instead of rushing, the way you hold her hips as though they're precious, the way your breath syncs with hers without force. These things seem small, but they are monumental to how she remembers the moment. You may also notice that her breathing changes in this position. It's not accidental. With her chest less compressed and her posture slightly different, each breath can feel deeper, more resonant. If you match your rhythm to her breath, something remarkable happens. The moment begins to feel less like an act and more like a shared meditation. Even if the pace intensifies, that initial synchronization stays in her memory like a grounding point she can always return to. And then there's the element of surprise. When she can't see exactly what you're about to do, anticipation heightens. Your hand moving unexpectedly to entwine with hers, a sudden kiss at the base of her neck, a whispered word she didn't see coming. It all lands differently because her other senses are heightened. In those moments, the sweetness is almost addictive. She's not just receiving, she's experiencing the thrill of the unknown while anchored in the safety of the familiar. That's the paradox you want to master, how to be predictable enough to make her feel secure, but unpredictable enough to keep her engaged. Too much predictability dulls the edges of excitement. Too much surprise without trust feels unsettling. From behind, you are in a position of control, and how you handle that power will determine whether she feels cherished or objectified. Sweetness cannot survive in the absence of respect. When she knows you respect her, this position can even awaken sides of her that she's kept hidden, not out of shame, but because she's never felt safe enough to reveal them. You might see her movements become more fluid, her sounds less restrained, her willingness to explore heightened. This is where the connection deepens beyond the physical. It's no longer just about sensation, but about expansion. She's discovering new parts of herself with you, and that makes you unforgettable. And here's the part that often goes unsaid sometimes. The sweetness she feels is because this position allows her to imagine you as something more primal, more instinct-driven, without losing the essence of who you are. It's a place where the civilized and the wild coexist. When done right, it doesn't strip strip away tenderness, it amplifies it. She can feel you as protector and partner, as lover and friend, all in the same breath. That layering of roles is intoxicating, because at its core, entering from the back isn't just about what you're doing, it's about how you're making her feel while you're doing it. And that's a truth that applies to every form of intimacy. When the emotional and physical align, the experience transforms from momentary pleasure into lasting memory. What I find most compelling about this position is how it challenges the way we think about control. From behind, it might seem as though one person has all the control, but the truth is far more balanced. Real control here is mutual. It's a trust exchange. She gives you the privilege of leading, but that privilege only exists because she feels you listening with every part of your body. That's something many men overlook. They think leading is about doing more, pressing harder, setting the pace. But in moments like these, leading is about listening not just to her words, but to the subtle, almost imperceptible changes in her breath, her muscle tension, the way her hips respond to your movements. These are the signals that tell you whether you're moving in harmony or out of sync. And when you are in sync, something profound happens. She doesn't just feel that you're inside her, she feels that you are with her. That together, you've left behind the surface world where everything is rushed and transactional, and stepped into a shared space where time feels different. Sometimes it feels slower, as if the moment has no end. Sometimes it feels faster, like a sudden rush of connection that takes your breath away. But always, it feels like you've crossed into somewhere more private, almost sacred. For women over 30, this feeling of sacredness is particularly powerful. By this point in life, she's lived enough to know the difference between attention and presence. Attention is fleeting, it's glances, it's quick touches, it's surface-level engagement. Presence is what you give her when every part of you, mind, body, and intention, is focused on her experience. And in this position, presence is amplified because you are behind her, holding her in a way that says, "I've got you." That reassurance is part of what makes it feel so sweet. Think about the metaphor here. When you're behind someone, you're covering their back. It's a protective gesture. In the language of intimacy, this translates into, you can lean forward, you can let go, because I'm right here supporting you. That is not just physical, it's emotional scaffolding. She feels safe enough to explore more, to express more, to open more. Sometimes the sweetness she feels is in the smallest gestures. The way your hand steadies her hip, the way your chest moves against her back when you breathe deeply, the way your lips find her shoulder as if it's the most natural thing in the world. These details tell her that you are not rushing through her, you are moving with her, and when she senses that you're not there to finish something but to live in it, her own energy shifts. She no longer feels like she's meeting an expectation. She feels like she's co-creating an experience. This is where vulnerability blooms. She may show you sounds, movements, or parts of herself she's kept hidden, not because she didn't want to share them, but because she didn't feel the safety to do so before. It's in that space where she feels both held and free that intimacy turns into something unforgettable. Because now, what's happening between you isn't just pleasure, it's affirmation, it's her feeling, I can be fully myself here, and it's not only accepted, it's desired. That affirmation touches something deep in a woman's heart, something that stays long after the physical moment is over. There's also an element of sensual storytelling here. When you enter from the back, you're creating a different narrative than the one told face to face. Face to face can feel like a conversation. From the back can feel like a whispered secret. It's not about replacing one with the other. It's about adding layers to the shared story you're building together. In healthy intimacy, variety isn't about novelty for novelty's sake. It's about giving each other different ways to feel wanted. And in this particular way, you give her a feeling that is a rare combination. To be guided and to be free. She doesn't have to watch herself. She doesn't have to manage her expression. She can simply follow the sensations, the rhythm, the pull of her own desire. When she looks back on it later, what she remembers most vividly may not even be the exact sequence of movements, but the atmosphere, the warmth, the closeness, the feeling of being desired in a way that's deep and consuming without being overwhelming. When you can create that atmosphere consistently, you become not just a partner she enjoys, but a partner she trusts with her most unguarded moments. And trust, once established in this way, has a ripple effect on every other part of the relationship. It makes her more open with you outside the bedroom, more willing to share her inner world, more confident that you will hold her with the same care in other areas of life. Because the truth is, the sweetness she feels when you enter from the back is not just physical sweetness. It's the sweetness of knowing that she can let herself go, and you will still be there, holding the connection, holding her. That is what transforms this position from something purely erotic into something deeply emotional. What makes this position so captivating for many women is how it magnifies every sense. When you're face to face, vision dominates. You read each other's eyes, lips, expressions. But from behind, vision is less of a guide, and that absence opens the door for touch, sound, scent, and movement to take center stage. Touch, for example, becomes more than just contact. It becomes communication. A hand sliding up her side isn't just a caress, it's a reassurance. The slow tracing of her spine tells her she's being noticed. That her body is not just a pathway but a landscape you're exploring with reverence. If you've ever felt her shiver at a single fingertip brushing her lower back, you've seen how little it takes to speak volumes when the senses are heightened. Sound plays an equally powerful role. In this position, your voice is closer to her ear, your breath, your murmurs, even the faintest groan becomes part of her experience. Words here are not just literal, they're layered with tone, with vibration, with heat. You might tell her something tender or something that stirs her in a different way, but what matters is the delivery. A slow whisper at the right moment can make her knees weaken in a way that's entirely different from anything you could achieve face to face. Scent is often overlooked but impossible to ignore in this position. The nearness of your body to hers means she can smell your skin, your hair, the faint trace of your cologne, or simply you, unfiltered. This intimacy of scent bypasses the conscious mind and speaks straight to memory. Long after the moment passes, a familiar whiff of your scent can take her right back to the exact second she felt you close behind her, making her body respond almost involuntarily. And then, of course, there's movement. The beauty of this angle is in its adaptability. You can slow down to the point where each movement feels deliberate and profound, or you can let the pace quicken in moments of heightened passion. What matters most is how you vary the rhythm, not in a mechanical way, but in response to her. If you listen with your hands, your hips, your breath, she will guide you without a single word. That responsiveness is intoxicating to her because it tells her she's not just there for you, you're there with her. But sensory mastery means nothing without emotional continuity. The sweetness she feels is fragile if it's only physical. If you disappear emotionally while still being there physically, she will feel it immediately. The human body is remarkably perceptive. She can sense if your mind drifts, if you lose the thread of connection. Staying present doesn't mean staring, it means feeling. It means holding her in such a way that she knows you are still attuned, still anchored in her experience, not just your own. One of the most profound things you can do in this position is integrate tenderness with passion. Too many men see them as separate, softness for slow moments, intensity for fast ones. But the sweetest experiences blend the two. You can hold her with the gentleness of someone protecting a fragile treasure, even as you move with the energy of someone utterly consumed by desire. That contrast tells her she is both precious and irresistible at the same time, and that combination is rare for many women, especially those who have been in long-term relationships. This is the kind of intimacy that reignites something deep. It's not just about novelty. It's about being reminded that she is still capable of feeling this way, still capable of losing herself in the moment, still capable of experiencing that delicious mix of vulnerability and power. And when you're the one who gives her that reminder, you occupy a place in her memory that is difficult to replace. There's also an unspoken trust in allowing you to see her from this angle. She's showing you a side of herself that she cannot control in the same way she can from the front. That requires a willingness to be truly seen, not for perfection, but for reality. And if you meet that with appreciation rather than judgment, if you make her feel beautiful in ways she didn't even realize she was, then you've given her more than pleasure. You've given her acceptance. The best lovers understand that this position is not about dominance, nor is it purely about submission. It's about interplay. You lead, she responds, she leads, you follow. Sometimes without words, sometimes without even conscious thought. It's a dance that relies on trust as much as attraction, on listening as much as touching. And when all these senses and emotions align, touch, sound, scent, movement, presence, the sweetness becomes almost overwhelming. She'll carry it with her in the way she smiles the next day, in the softness of her voice when she speaks to you, in the quiet glance that says she's remembering. In the end, all of this comes down to something far more meaningful than a position. Entering from the back is just a setting. The true sweetness is in the relationship between the two of you in that moment. It's not simply about what your bodies are doing. It's about what your presence is saying. Every gesture, every shift of weight, every pause is speaking a language that she can feel in her skin, in her heartbeat, in her breath. What you are really doing is creating a space where she can dissolve the tension of the outside world, where she doesn't have to be the mother, the worker, the problem solver, the one who holds it all together. In those minutes, she can be only herself, her sensual self, her playful self, her vulnerable self, because you've built an atmosphere where she feels completely safe to do so. That is the gift you're giving her, and that safety isn't born in the bedroom. It's cultivated in all the moments before, in how you speak to her when she's tired, in how you listen to her stories without glancing at your phone, in how you notice when she needs space and when she needs closeness. By the time you are behind her, your body is simply delivering a message you've already sent 100 times. You are safe here. You are desired here. You are free here. When she feels that truth in her bones, everything changes. Her movements will be less calculated, her breathing deeper, her responses more natural. She's not performing for you. She's connecting with you. And that's when this position becomes more than just physical pleasure. It becomes a shared moment of intimacy that lingers far beyond the physical act. Because here's something worth remembering: what lasts in memory isn't just the climax. It's the way she felt on the way there. It's the steady hand at her waist, the warmth of your chest close to her back, the sound of your voice reminding her without words that she is completely yours in that moment. That's what she replays in her mind when she thinks about you later. That's what makes her smile in the middle of the day when no one's watching. This is also why the sweetness of entering from the back doesn't fade with time. When it's done with care, it deepens. As your history with each other grows, so does the richness of what this moment means. It can carry memories of laughter, of tenderness, of passion. It can remind her of the time you surprised her, or the time you comforted her, or the time you simply held her there, doing nothing but being present. And for men who want to truly understand women, especially women who have lived, loved, and learned through their 30s and beyond, here is the secret: positions are tools, but connection is the art. You can use this position as a way to dominate, to control, or to simply change things up, but the sweetest experiences come when you use it to connect, when you let it be a canvas where trust and desire paint together. If you can do that, you won't just be the man who entered her from behind, you'll be the man who made her feel so safe, so seen, so cherished in that moment, that her body and mind both surrendered, not in defeat, but in joy. And she will never forget that. So remember, slow down. Listen with your whole body. Hold her as if you're holding her story, not just her shape. And let that sweetness be something you build together every time, until it becomes your language. A language that doesn't need eyes to communicate, only hearts that know how to listen. Because when a woman feels that, it's no longer about position, it's about presence. And presence, my friend, is the most irresistible thing you can ever give her.